Today is November the 8th, 1998. The survivor is Judith Goldner, Rosenberg maiden name. We are in Studio City, California, USA, and we speak in English. And the interviewer is Carol Weissman.
Today is November 8th, 1998. We are interviewing Judith Goldner in Studio City, California, and the interview will be done in English. My name is Carol Weissman. Good afternoon. Would you tell us your name, please?
Judith Goldner.
And what is your date of birth, Judith?
It's February 25th, 1923,
And where were you born?
in Mukachevo, Munkach.
And what country was that?
This was, when I was born, that one was Czechoslovakia.
Would you tell us your mother's name and your father's name?
Yeah. My father's name was Zvidov Rosenberg, and my mother's name was Yolana Yente, in Jewish, Big.
And would you tell us your brother and sister's names?
My sister, the oldest, was Rivke, and the other one was Henchi, and one was Scheindl, and I am the fourth, Yehudit.
And you have a brother?
My brother was Nussen Wolf. In English, it's William.
Judith, were you a religious family?
Very, very religious. My father, he went around, if you know what a strammel is,
Would you tell us?
with a hat, Saturday with a 4 around. Today they go in Bnei Barak, it's from mink, made from mink. And a big belek kaftan, you know. That's how they went Saturday. He was religious, had a long beard.
And how often did you go to synagogue?
I went to my mother every Saturday to visit her. She went to the synagogue every Saturday.
So you were Orthodox?
Yes,
Did you have Shabbat dinners in your house every week?
every Friday.
Would you tell us about a Shabbat dinner in your home?
I can tell you after, when my mother was by herself. My father wasn't alive. So we had fish, gefilte fish, soup with noodles. And sometimes we had a small piece of meat. If not, we had stuffed cabbage. And a little prunes for dessert, cooked prunes. But we were very happy.
Did you and your sisters and perhaps your brother help your mother prepare for the Sabbath?
My sister used to help, and I used to help a lot.
Did your mother work at all?
She would work, but in Europe they didn't have any place where to go to work. So she struggled.
Beside your brother, your sisters, and your mother, who came to your Shabbat dinners?
My father's sister with her 2 children.
And what were their names?
Her name was also Henchi, and the little girl's name was Chaya Bailku, and the boy's name was Zvidov, after my father's name.
And will you tell us what happened to your father?
Oh, he died at home. One Thursday night we went together to shop for Shabbos, and at night he got up and he died. We don't know the cause. That time till the doctor came, he was dead.
Would you tell us about your school experience from the time you were a little girl? What schools you went to?
I went to Hebrew school since age 6, from the 1st grade, and I finished. Then I went to the gymnasia.
And was that a public or a private school?
It was a private school, and we used to get every winter time packages from America with clothes whoever needed some warm clothes. So we got up and we got it. I got a coat once, a warm winter coat from that package from America. The UNRWA used to send it.
What is the UNRWA?
The UNRWA, I think so, United Nation. I really don't remember it.
And how often did these packages arrive
Just
for you?
once a year,
Once a year.
the winter time.
In your neighborhood, did you have non-Jewish friends? I mean, you went to an all-Jewish school, but did you have non-Jewish friends?
Yes, the neighbors. The neighbors, we used to play around with them until the Germans didn't occupy us. Then we were wearing, you know, the yellow stars. So they just went away. They didn't play with us. And they stopped coming to our backyard. We used to play in the backyard together. And they just stopped coming to us.
Do you remember when that was? What year?
Yeah, it was in 1944 in April, after Passover, right after Passover, a day after Passover, it started.
Do you remember when the war broke out?
The war?
When the war started?
Which war? The 1938? Yeah, I was in the hospital.
What, were you sick in the hospital?
I was sick in the hospital.
What was wrong with you?
I had dysentery. So they took all the guys, you know, to the army. And my sister, the oldest one, came to the window in the hospital to tell me that, you know, we have a war. I was that time 16 years old.
And while you were in the hospital, were people talking about what was going on?
Just the nurse came to me and told me, little girl, we have a war. That's all what she said.
So when you got out of the, firstly, how long were you in the hospital?
I think so. I was about 2 weeks.
And when you came home, were there discussions in your house about political discussions, what was going on?
No, because in our city we still didn't feel so well, you know, the wartime, because they started to take the Polish people out from the houses.
And you knew about
Yeah,
this?
I knew everything, because we had one man who ran away, you know, from Poland, and he was hiding in the attic in our house.
What was his name?
I don't remember.
And
I think so. We used to call him Moshe.
And how did he get to your house? Did your family know Moshe?
We knew him.
And what did he tell you was happening?
Nothing. He was hidden in the attic, and then when we were occupied from the Germans came to look all over, and I hid his boots, because he came in boots, that they shouldn't find him.
And did your family ever think that before the German occupation in Czechoslovakia, did you think that you would be in trouble? You know, that your country, your town would be in trouble?
We didn't know about it till they didn't open a day after Passover, the ghettos they made for us.
Was there any talk before that of ever, I mean, okay, the ghetto opened, did you think that you would be affected?
We always had hope that no.
So you never had discussions about leaving Munkash?
No. We always lived with hope until the last minute.
And were any of your sisters married at that time?
No, none of them.
And you said that you had hope until the last minute. What happened?
It happened that when they took us in the wagons, and I went up one stair to the wagon, and with my other leg I was hanging down and still hoping that a miracle will come and they won't take us.
You said when they took you, who exactly came to get you?
The Germans.
And what were the circumstances? How much time did you have before you knew that you had to leave your house?
Just a couple hours.
Couple of hours?
Couple hours.
And how did you get the news that you had to leave your house?
They announced that the Hungarians and the Germans. The Hungarians worked together with the Germans, hand by hand.
Did you have, when they announced it, did they, I mean, how? Did you all have to congregate someplace?
No. They announced it that we should get out fast from our houses. My mother took a blanket and a cover, and I holded my sister's Shindy's hands, and we were running. We were running, and we didn't know where we are running. But that time I worked already in the drugstore, so we ran to the drugstore in the back, you know, in the laboratorium. But in the meantime, they took together everybody to the ghetto. So I moved to the ghetto too.
Okay. And in addition to what your mother brought, did you bring anything with you? Any personal belongings with you?
No, just some food because we didn't know where we are going. So we took along, you know, like jars of fruit, things like that, because we didn't know where we are going. And inside in the wagons, I opened the jar with a spoon, and I used to feed my mother because she didn't want to eat.
Who was with you on the wagon?
My sister, Shandel, and that's all, and my mother.
And where were your...
And my two cousins, the little ones, and my aunt, and another aunt with 3 boys.
And where were your other 2 sisters and your brother?
One sister was, 2 sisters who were with me, and one sister was in Budapest.
Which sister was in Budapest?
The oldest one, Rivke.
Why was she in Budapest?
She was working in the Jewish hospital in Budapest. And over there, she stayed till the last minute.
Meaning?
Oh, she was a nurse over there, so she was hiding people. A lot of people she was hiding over there in hospital.
Okay. Judith, how old were you when you were taken to the ghetto?
I was 21 or 22.
And when you got on the truck, the wagon, how long a ride was it to the ghetto?
Oh, to the ghetto wasn't. We didn't go in the wagons to the ghetto.
How did you
Just on I think so was trucks or something.
And how far was the ghetto
I
from your
wasn't too
home?
far. It was about an hour, even not an hour.
And tell us about the ghetto. Where did they take you? Where did the Germans take you?
This was a place where they made bricks, and over there we was.
So it was a brick factory?
A brick factory.
And how many people were in this brick factory?
This I can tell you, a lot of them. A lot of children, a lot of mothers, and the hundreds of people.
And who was in charge of the ghetto?
The Germans. The Germans.
How long were you there for?
I think so we were over there maybe a week.
Were you allowed outside once you were in?
No, just inside. They were walking, the Hungarian soldiers, with guns on their shoulder and watching us.
And what did you do every day?
Every day just sitting and waiting for a miracle.
And what were some of the discussions you had with your family, with other people while you were there?
Nothing, nothing.
Did you wonder what was going to happen to you?
No, we just asked the Hungarian soldiers, because I had on my fingers all kind of jewelry. So I said, I give it to you if you will tell me where they are taking us. And he answered, I don't know, I don't know. So I took the jewelry and I flushed it down in the toilet.
Did you have food while you were in the ghetto?
They gave us out, I think so, maybe pieces of bread, but I don't remember what kind of food they gave us.
Was there any unusual cruelty or by the guards toward all of you?
No, they just, whoever was hidden from them, they brought it in, you know, and they beat it up them. I know one friend of mine, she just had a baby, a newborn baby, and she was hidden between the walls, and they found her, and they brought her in, and she was all bloody because they hit her, and they killed the baby.
While you were in the ghetto?
In the ghetto.
And you saw this happen?
Of course. I was standing there.
Was there anybody who was sick at the time while you were in the ghetto?
This I can't remember.
Do you remember the name of the street that the brick factory was on?
No, no. I don't remember the name. I don't remember the name where we used to live.
What were the sanitary conditions of the factory?
None.
None? Could you go to the bathroom?
Yeah, the bathroom, yes, but the soldier with the gun on his shoulder, the Hungarian soldier, on the shoulder, he was watching us, even if we went to the bathroom.
And you said you did nothing during the day, but sat
No,
around and waited for a
nothing,
miracle, and had no idea how you had. I mean, did you have any idea how long you'd be there for?
No, no, they didn't want it to talk to us. If I questioned them, they didn't want it to talk. This was the reason that I flushed down the jewelry.
So you weren't able to get any information
No.
about what was happening outside the
No,
ghetto?
no.
How long were you in the ghetto for?
I think so, approximately a week.
And then what happened after the
Then
week?
they took us to the wagons were prepared, and they pushed us in the wagons like animals. And they went towards Slovakia, and when they came on the border, so they opened the wagons, the German soldiers already, and they said whoever has jewelry, they should give it in. And I had only one ring left with a ruby, and I didn't want to get rid of it. And my mother, she said, children, jewelry was and it will be. Just give it. Well, that's why I never cared for jewelry since then. Because I always remember her words.
How long were you on the wagons for?
This I really can't remember till we arrived to Auschwitz.
When you say wagons, you mean trains?
Trains, yeah, like for kettles.
Okay, the cattle cars.
Yeah.
Who was with you on the trains?
You mean the family?
Yes.
Yeah. Was the two sisters, my mother, my mother's sister-in-law with the two children. The children were sitting on my lap all the way till they didn't open the wagon in Auschwitz. and a sister of hers with 3 boys, and another sister. But soon they opened the doors, screaming, and everybody disappeared. We didn't know where we are. Just we went off. And then he said, the Gestapo, you go this side, and you, for the mother, this. And my mother said, these are my children. And those little children were on my lap. They disappeared in minutes. Everybody went to the gas chamber.
When the doors opened, what was the first thing you saw?
Just screaming, screaming, nothing else.
What time of day did you arrive in Auschwitz? Do you remember?
Oh, it could be around noontime.
And what time of year was it?
In 1944.
But what month?
Or what months? Around May or in the beginning of June.
Do you remember how long your trip was?
No, no.
Can you tell us the conditions on the train getting there?
Conditions? None. Nobody cared about us.
But you were in your car. About how many people were in your car? In the cattle car, how many people were with you?
Oh, was packed, this I don't know. You know, we were so mixed up that we didn't pay attention.
Did you have any idea where you were going?
No, not at all.
Did anybody tell you anything when you
No.
were getting on the trains?
No, no, we didn't have an idea. Because my mother prepared a lot of foods, you know, that we are going somewhere, we should have enough. And we didn't have an idea that we will arrive over there and everything will be thrown away.
When the doors opened, you said it was very noisy.
Terrible noisy, screaming. Screaming because they took out from women's, the children's hands.
Who? When you say they, who?
Young mothers, 33, 32-year-old mothers, what I knew. And she was screaming, these are my children, I'm not giving them out. And they were taking them out from her arms.
But who was taking the children from the mother's arms?
The Gestapos. The Gestapos. So it was terrible screaming. We didn't know anything what's going on.
And you arrived, and where did you go?
One transport, like my mother and the children, they took to the gas chamber right away.
But did you know there was a gas chamber?
No.
So they went one way and you went another?
Yes,
and where did you think they were going?
we didn't know. We didn't know. Just when they took us in the barracks, then were over there Polish boys and girls who were over there from before and working in the gas chamber. So they told us, you know, your mother and the children were in the gas chamber. That time we knew about it.
So the first time you ever heard about a gas chamber
That's right.
was when you arrived in Auschwitz?
Right, they told us.
The Polish prisoners
Yes, yes.
told you. After your mother and sisters were taken, were you with anybody? Was anybody left in your family?
My 2 sisters were with me together,
Which sisters?
Hintje and Schendl. They were with me. But one day, when they told us, every day they used to tell us to get off, you know, from the bunker and to stand outside, and they counted us. So I told one sister who was paralyzed on one side hand. So I told her, don't come down, because I used to schlep her by myself down, you know, it was high, the bunkers. So I said, stay over there. And I went in outside, and she counted, and the Gestapo, the woman, and she did see somebody is missing. They schlepped out my sister, and they beat it up me, and then they took her to the gas chamber that night. I was walking all night seeing the flames.
What did you do after that?
Nothing, just crying. Crying, walking all night outside and watching the flames from the gas chamber.
Did you have a job when you were in Auschwitz?
No, I didn't do nothing. I was in the barrack. They took us out every evening and counted us, and they gave us a small piece of cheese or a small piece of bread. And early in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I used to sneak out from the barrack, and I went to wash off myself, because a lot of girls, they didn't wash off themselves. They got, I don't know how you call it, rashes all over. So with that cold, icy water in the winter time, I used to wash myself 3 o'clock in the morning and going back to the barrack.
Who was guarding the barracks?
At the Gestapos. And when it got a little dark, then they closed up the doors, and we stayed inside like animals.
Did you have any food?
What do you mean, for the evening?
Yeah, what kind? How often were you fed?
Once a day we used to get or a small piece of bread or a small piece of cheese, and I hide it, you know, under my head at night time, and many times they used to steal from under the head the piece of bread.
The other inmates?
Yes.
About how many, it was all women, your barracks, right?
All women.
And about how many women were in your particular barrack?
I think so, approximately maybe 30.
And realistically, with how many would have been comfortable if there were 30 women? I mean, how big was it really for how many girls?
Oh, it was about maybe for 10.
Judith, we're going to stop and change the tape. Big enough for 10 and 30 slept in the barracks?
Yes.
Tell me what you did every day.
Just sitting in the barrack, and when the Gestapo wasn't there, so we used to talk. When she came in, we had to be quiet. When they said we should come out and to stand in line, and she counted us, and when it started to be dark, we went in, and she closed up on us the door, and we did lay down on our, it's not a bed.
How many times a day were you made to stand outside on line?
Twice a day. Twice a day.
And how long did this take?
Oh, it depends, because when Mengele came to count us and to take us out, whoever he wanted to take out, so it took longer.
Tell us who Mengele was, please.
Mengele was the Gestapo who took out the girls and put them in the gas chamber. Whoever he didn't like, that's what he did.
What are some of the things you talked about with the other girls in the barracks?
Almost nothing. We didn't have hope, and we thought it will never get an end. And they used to ask me, Judith, what will be? And I said, nothing. We will stay here and we will die.
Was it always the same amount of girls, or did new girls come into the barracks?
Not to our barracks.
So you never saw any other people other than the 30
Oh
girls?
yeah, I used to grab sometimes if I had a little food. I used to go to another barrack because my father's nieces were over there. So I used to take a little food for them. So once the Gestapo caught me on the way going in Auschwitz, so he beat me up terrible and spilled out the food. And I went back to my barrack.
Did you ever hear from any of the people in the other barracks what was happening outside? Did you get any information?
No. We never knew what's going on. We just knew one thing, that whoever is taken out from the line is going to the gas chamber. That's all what we knew.
Did you know any of the guards?
No, the only one what I knew was a woman. And she came in every afternoon late. Almost was dark. She closed up on us the door every evening. And she was terrible. She used to beat up like dogs, us.
Do you remember her name?
Yes, the crazy. We used to call her crazy. And then when I was liberated, they caught her and they asked somebody should come in and to talk what she did, and I did. This was the English. We were liberated from the Allies, and I went in, and she was sitting over there, and they took off already her boots, and she was crying, "Ich bin unschuldig, ich bin unschuldig," that she is innocent. So I told them what she did. She pulled out my sister, who was taken to the gas chamber. And what they did to her after, I don't know, because the Allies were still friends with them and not with us.
I want to go back to Auschwitz, and we'll talk about your liberation afterwards. Would you describe some of the other inmates for us in your barracks?
Other inmates?
Yes, their nationalities, their ages. Where were they from?
They were all my age. Everyone was.
And how old were you at that time?
Around 22. All in my age. All those young girls. One girl, one friend who came from my city, she came pregnant because she just got married before it started the war. She came pregnant, they took her out, I was standing right there, and a wagon was standing, and the German woman, you know, this Gestapo, says,
Kratzy?
yeah, she says, "Are you pregnant, you swine, you pig?" And they put her up on the wagon, and they took her to Auschwitz, to the gas chamber. And I was standing over there and watching. And was another woman who had a baby over there in the toilet, and they did cut her, and they flushed down the baby.
Do you remember these girls' names?
The one name was Shari,
This was Shari who
What
was pregnant,
happened?
or who had the baby?
who was pregnant, and the other was Leah.
Was Leah also from Munkash?
No, no.
Were you close to any of the any of the girls in your barracks?
Yes, yes, I was very close with one girl who gave out the food.
What was her name?
Would you believe it that I don't remember her name?
Where was she from?
Oh, she was from Hungary, deep Hungary. But I can't believe it that I forgot her name. We were such a close friend because I used to scrape out the barrel when she gave out, scrape it out and take it to those barracks where my cousins were.
Did she survive, this friend of yours?
No, just her sister survived. And I don't remember her name. My God.
So there were relations between all the girls from different countries. You all got along?
Yes, yes. Some of them, they used to steal your piece of bread, but, you know, if you are hungry, you forget that you are a human being.
Right. Were you ever sick while you were in Auschwitz?
Not in Auschwitz. I was very sick in Bergen-Belsen, but not in Auschwitz.
Did anybody ever help you
Where?
when you were sick?
No,
No.
no.
Was there there was no medical attention?
Oh, no.
No. Did you try and keep your illness a secret?
In the beginning, yes, because I had a very high fever. I had the fleck typhus. I don't know in English how they call it, fleck typhus. And it's with very high fever. And the Gestapo wanted that I should schlep those trees what they were cutting in the woods on my shoulder. And I was so weak that I couldn't carry it. So I fell down in the middle of the street and he started to beat me up. But I was sitting silent and I let it myself to beat up. And then I went to my room, and very early in the morning when it was very dark, my mouth was pasted together from the high fever. I went to look, maybe I find something to drink, you know, to open my mouth. And I found black coffee. And when I went with the black coffee, one Ukraine girl came in front of me and she knocked it out from my hands.
What kind of girl was she?
Ukraine,
Oh, Ukraine, I'm sorry.
yeah.
And where did you find
Those
the
are
coffee?
the biggest anti-Semitism.
Where did you find the coffee?
I found it somewhere, I think so was a kitchen or what. I sneaked in, it was still dark, early in the morning. And she knocked it out from my hands.
Okay, Judith, I want to go back because you're now talking about you were very sick in the next concentration camp.
Yeah, this was in Bergen-Belsen.
Okay, I want to go back to Auschwitz. How long were you in Auschwitz altogether?
Altogether I was about 6 months.
And you said you never had a job in Auschwitz?
No.
Okay, when the 6 months were over, would you tell us the circumstances that you left Auschwitz?
Yes. After 6 months or maybe more, they did feel, the Germans, that the Russians are coming near Auschwitz. So they started to take us out and we started to walk. And we walked. Every night they pushed us in a barn. They gave for us maybe a potato and a small piece of bread, and we were sleeping over the night at the barn. And then in the morning the Gestapos opened the barn and they said, let's go, let's go. And we started to walk again. And that's how we walked 4 weeks. After the 3rd week, I hid myself. I didn't want to get out. And I was waiting the transport should leave. And I hid myself in a barn. There was hay, fresh hay. And I was over there for 3 days, and I always used to leak it was snowing, to leak a little snow for 3 days. After 3 days, I got very weak. So I went down to look, maybe I will find some seeds. And the Gestapo who lived in that building where I was hidden, he had a dog. And the dog started to run up to the barn, back to his boss, up to the barn, and barking. So the German knew that somebody is in the barn. So he came over there with a gun, and he says, right away you should leave. And it got a little bit dark already. Leave or I'm going to shoot you. So I picked up myself and I started to walk. And I was walking a little bit, and then I did see another barn. And because it got dark, I was afraid that the soldiers used to come down from the hills. I was afraid they will rape me. So I went to the barn and I hid myself again between very nice smelly hay. And suddenly I hear that somebody is coughing and coming close to the barn. I stopped breathing and I hear he says, "Wo bist du? Where are you?" Another girl, a Polish girl, was hidden in the same barn.
A Jewish girl?
Yeah. And he brought her food.
Who, he, the owner?
It's a German guy. He brought her food and she offered herself that she would go with him to live, just she should be saved.
And they, of course, didn't know you were there.
No,
You were listening to this.
I stopped breathing. And he says, I can take you to my house because I have a wife. But every time, every evening, and this time I will bring you the food. And he left. When he left, I started to talk. Who are you? Talk to me. She didn't want it. She thought maybe I want to slap her out. So I was waiting till it got a little bit light in the morning, and I started to walk again. And I was walking, and I knew that the Germans and the Russians are getting together and fight. So I did.
How did you know this?
Because I knew I stopped 3 soldiers. They were in German clothes, but they were talking Polish. So I speak, I speak Czech, I speak Ukraine. So I started to talk to them, and I says, how far are they fighting from here? They says 6 kilometers. I says, where are the Russians? He says, 6 kilometers from here. I wanted to be captured by the Russians. I didn't know that the Russians are terrible. They used to rape the girls. They used to do a lot of things. So I started to walk. And suddenly I see a guy standing outside, a Polish. And I says, maybe you would go in and give me a small piece of bread because I'm very hungry. I didn't eat for days. And he wants to go in, and the Gestapo for whom he was cleaning over there came out, and he says to me, "Du Schwein, you pig, you are Jewish, you ran away from the transport." So I did see that it's no good like this, and it's no good like that. So I went back to my transport who was walking, and they started to cry, "Judith, you are free already 3 days. Don't come with us." And I said, whatever will happen to you, that will happen to me. I can't go around like this by myself.
But how did you find them? You had been hiding for 3 days. How did you find them?
They were not too far because they used to stop every night in another place. So I went with them, and that's how we arrived to Bergen-Belsen.
4 weeks later, after you left Auschwitz?
Yes, yes. We arrived to Bergen-Belsen, And one Gestapo started to beat us up again. And finally they put us to a room. And in that room, we were laying like sardines on the floor. And a lot of girls, they died over there. I kept over there a couple girls for days dead because I wanted to collect their food.
Wasn't your sister still alive at this point?
My sister, Scheindl, in Auschwitz, before I left, she left with another transport. I didn't know where she is. I stayed by myself. So, and I used to collect the food for the dead girls, and I let them to lay next to me dead. Then after a few days, I took them by the legs and I pulled them out because it was like wood, put it one on each other, you know, high, together, those dead girls.
You did that? You did that with the girls?
I took them out, yeah. I pulled them out, and I was in that room, and we were over there. I told you when I had a fleck typhus, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
How long did did you get sick after you arrived in Bergen-Belsen?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I was sick, very sick. The girls, they die one after the other. And we schlepped them out every time by the legs. And after we were liberated from the Allies, and they started to scream, Judith, go out. They opened the warehouses. It's plenty of food.
But before that, Judith, you mentioned earlier that while you were very sick, at night you would have to take trees from the forest and carry them. So you would leave the camp and go into the forest. Did you ever see any local people in the town?
No. We didn't see anybody.
And again, were there guards around the barracks all the time?
All over Gestapos guarding us.
And did you have any food to eat?
They gave us a little farina in the evening.
Farina meaning cereal?
Yeah,
Okay.
cereal, yeah. Then when I felt a little better, they took us to work on those deep mines to make, you know, for the soldiers. And one day our hands were frozen and we couldn't handle the shovel in our hands. So we were deep inside and the Gestapos all around. My grandson is here. He should come in?
No, keep going.
And they said, we are going to shoot you, all of you. And we were standing, we didn't move. We couldn't take in our hands the shells. In the evening, when we went back to the barracks, the Gestapo beat up everybody and said, we are not getting any food today because of that. So I sneaked into a kitchen, and one girl was working over there whom I knew. And I started to bring in the water, pails of water, that she should sneak for me a little cereal. So I got a little cereal, and then I went in the barrack to cover myself with straw because it was very cold in January.
At this point, where were the girls in your barracks? Where were they from, most of them?
Oh, they were from Transylvania, from Hungary, from the Carpathians, from all over.
So did you have any news of what was going on
No,
outside?
no, no.
Was there somebody in the camp, other than this friend of yours in the kitchen, was there somebody that helped you day to day when you were so sick?
Nobody. Nobody in this world.
And how do you think, I mean, you were so sick, how did you survive every day?
It was a miracle. A lot of them died that time. A lot of them.
Would you tell us about your day of liberation?
Yes. When the Allies liberated us, they were screaming, "Judith, get up, go out and organize the food." And I answered, "What's the matter? You give me another injection? Another injection that we should try to live?" I couldn't believe it. On the end, I got up and I went out for a little water. And everything was broken, all the doors from the warehouses. And they started to grab the cans of meat, the cans of sauerkraut, and eating it. And all of them got dysentery.
All of them meaning the inmates?
No, the girls. And most of them died after liberation.
So who exactly liberated you?
The Allied, the English.
English, okay.
The
And
English.
when? What day were you liberated?
This I can't tell you exactly the date.
The month of the year?
The month, December, maybe in April,
And what year?
in 1945.
Okay. So, did you run for food? What exactly did you do?
First of all, I couldn't walk. My feet were swollen, I couldn't walk. So we were liberated from the Allies, but we had a lot of Czech soldiers over there. They were wounded. So first of all, I took off one coat from a soldier and I put it on, and they put me on their arms like a child in the hospital.
Where was the hospital?
In Bergen, next to Bergen-Belsen. And I was over there maybe a week. After the week I got better, so I enrolled myself to the hospital to work over there. They checked me if I know about the medication to give out how much doses. And they did see I know about it. So they took me in to work over there. That time I got plenty of food, barrels of food, and the French breads. And dinner I was sitting with the English soldiers, not soldiers, officers, and having the most luxurious dinners. And I was working over there with the sick people. And I was over there until they didn't empty the hospital. Most of the girls they took out, they took them to Sweden because they were sick on their lungs. And I was waiting. Then the Israeli soldiers were also in the English army. So I asked them what's going on in the world. So they told me about the Russians, what they are doing.
And tell us what they told you.
They raped the girls. If somebody had a watch, they cut it off the hands and they took off the watch. They did a lot of animal stuff. So I was afraid to go home. So I stayed over there. Finally,
In Bergen.
in Bergen, yeah. Finally, I picked up myself and I started to go. I came to Slovakia
You were by yourself?
all by myself.
And how did you get to your destination?
You were asking people on the road, you know,
You were walking?
walking and going by train, having a pair of wooden shoes on myself with a few rags. So I came to Slovakia. In Slovakia, a guy did see me, and he says, "Little girl, stay with me. I have a house, I have salami, I have food." And I looked around and I did see he's not Jewish. So I started to walk away.
How did you know he wasn't Jewish?
I knew it. We were raised very religious. I knew it. I started to walk from Slovakia to Hungary. I came to Budapest. I was looking around. Maybe somebody is left. And in Hungary, somebody comes to me and tells me, "You know, you have 2 sisters alive and a brother."
Who told you?
I don't remember who was it. I started to cry from joy. And then I went to Munkacs. I found my older sister there. And she had already an apartment.
And when you got to Munkacs, did you go back to your house?
I went to my house because a Gentile girl, I was very close friends with her. I gave her, she came in the ghetto and brought me a round baked bread. And I says to her, "Listen, if somebody will come home sometimes, here are the keys from our house." And I gave her the keys. And when I came home, I went to see our house. I found the 4 empty walls. When she heard that somebody is alive, she emptied the whole house, and I have 2 big, beautiful portraits from my parents above our bed. She burned everything. And that's why I found she had in the garbage pail, she had my mother's picture and my sister's picture who was killed.
Judith, we're going to stop and change the tape. It's about how did some of the other Gentile neighbors greet you when they saw you?
They didn't greet us. They were not happy that we are alive.
And what did they say to you?
Nothing. Nothing. They didn't talk to us. They didn't care about us. They were probably sorry that we came home, because when they took us away, they right away they occupied our houses, and they were standing in the windows and laughing that they took us. They were very happy. I didn't find nothing in our house. Just one guy who lived in Israel, he died 2 years ago. He went to our house and in garbage he found those pictures. And he did send it to my brother to New York, and that's how I got those pictures. Otherwise, I didn't have nothing left.
Will you tell us how you found your sisters and your brother?
Yes. I went to Munkacs and I found over there my sister, and she told me my brother is in Romania.
Your sister Regina?
Yes. She was like a mother, the older sister. And she said, my brother is in Romania. And he came from Romania, and then we got all together.
So you survived, Regina survived,
And
William
Shandel.
survived, and Shandel
Yeah,
survived.
yes.
And you all came back to Munkach?
We were a very short time over there because the Russians were very, very bad. We were afraid to go out in the evening.
How long did you stay there for?
Oh, I was maybe, if I say a lot, a month.
And what did you do in that month to survive?
Nothing.
You stayed in your house?
Stayed in my house, yes.
With your brother and sisters?
With everybody together.
And where did you go after you left Munkach?
After we packed, we didn't have too much stuff. We went to Austria. Soon we came the border Austria, and the train was terrible with the Russians. They cut it off the suitcases from the back. They took out all the stuff for you. They pushed themselves. It was terrible, especially for a woman. And from Austria, we went to Italy. And in Italy, my husband had already, wait 1 second. From Austria, I went to Czechoslovakia. In Czechoslovakia, I had a very good life. I got over there a good job
Doing what? What kind of job?
as a pharmacy technician. And over there, I had a very good life. Every week I went to Prague, and I stayed over there 4 years. And after Czechoslovakia, when they were occupied from the communists, then I ran away.
And where did you go?
I ran away again to Austria, from Austria to Italy. And in Italy, my husband had all the papers to go to United States.
Were you married at this point?
In Czechoslovakia.
Where did you, tell us your husband's name.
Frank.
And where did you meet Frank?
Frank was in Prague and was 40 kilometers from Prague, the drugstore.
What was the name of the town at the drugstore?
Ústí nad Labem. And he came, before I closed the drugstore, he arrived. I says, what are you doing here? He says, I came to visit you.
Oh, you knew Frank?
For a year, I made business with him. I used to buy thermometers from him. I met him in Carlsbad, was a Zionist Congress in Carlsbad, and I used to translate from Czech to Hebrew. You know, I was standing over there. So we met each other, and for a year we made business together. And after a year he came to visit me. And I had a girlfriend over there, and she says, would you marry Judith and you would throw away your visa? Because he had to the United States, and I had to Australia, a permit. So that's how we got married in 4 weeks. And this month is 50 years.
That's lovely. Tell me, so you got married, and where did you end up going after you got married?
After we got married, we had to leave Czechoslovakia. We went to Italy. And in Italy, I couldn't get to United States because I couldn't have the papers. So we went to Israel. In Israel, I was 16 months waiting for my court. And then we came to United States. I got pregnant with my daughter, and in 1950 I arrived over here.
And how did you get to the United States from Israel?
By plane.
By plane? And you landed in what state?
In New York.
In New York. And how long did you stay in New York for?
In New York, 8 years.
Did you work?
No,
No?
no. I came pregnant with my daughter. I had my daughter in 1950.
What is her name?
Margaret. She calls herself Peggy. And then I got pregnant right away with my son. And my husband was working, so we managed.
And what was your husband doing in New York?
Baker. Always was a baker.
You know, there's something that I didn't ask you. Before the war, before you were taken to the ghetto, you were out of school. You were
Yes.
working. What did you do?
A pharmacy technician.
So you went to school after the gymnasium. You went to school or
No,
in the,
and in Europe, those schools were enough. I could even work freely with prescriptions to fill out. Here, you have to go again to school, but not there. I worked free with prescriptions.
okay. Tell me, Judith, how you think, I mean, you were very sick toward the end of the war with typhus and had a very difficult time. Tell me why you think you survived.
Maybe I was fighting fast enough to survive. Maybe some girls, they were talking over there in Bergen-Belsen from food and baking and you know, just a mind, baking and cooking, and they died. And I tried, you know, to fight for life. I always was aggressive. I grew up without a father, and I always was a fighter.
And you lost your sister, you lost your mother. How have you dealt with the loss over the years?
Especially after my mother was very hard. Was terrible. I thought I will never live without a mother. I went to Budapest in the wartime, and this was on a Friday. Saturday night my sister took me to a dancing place, my older sister, and suddenly I did see my mother, that she lights the candles and the candles are burning, and I picked up myself in the morning and I ran back. I always was very, very close to my mother. Maybe I was the closest one in the whole family.
Judith, how do you think your experiences during the war, how did it affect the way you brought up your children?
I can say that my children felt that what I went through. I tried not to.
Did you talk about your experiences with your children?
Some of it, not too much. Every time I always tell them something, you know, little by little. But my daughter knows everything because they have a lot of books from the Holocaust. They read it. My grandson, the same thing. They know everything.
Is there a message, Judith, that you would like to leave for your children, your grandchildren, and the rest of the world?
Yes, they should never forget that they are Jewish, that I tried very hard to bring them up in Jewish faith. And I paid very, very high price for it. And I tried to educate them only in Jewish schools, that they should always remember that they are Jews. They will have more respect everywhere, even at the Gentile people, if they won't forget their Jewish faith.
Judith, before we close, is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Like what?
Anything you can think of to tell us?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'd like to thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
It was a pleasure having you over here.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure. You was very highly recommended, and she was right.
Thank you. Would you tell us your name, please?
Joshua Weiner.
And what is your relationship to Judith Goldner?
She's my grandma.
Joshua, how old are you?
I'm 20 right now.
And how old were you when you learned about your grandmother's experiences in the Holocaust?
I don't remember. It was just always given, I guess.
Your grandmother shared her experiences with you through your life?
Some of them I had to ask a little bit, when I went to college or in high school, when I started to become aware of the situation in history class, in common conversation, that sort of thing. I haven't heard everything, but anything that I've been told has always been either given or during questioning for class or whatever.
You'll get this tape, and it'll be a gift to you from your grandmother when you hear her story. Were any of your other friends, grandparents, Holocaust survivors?
I believe so, yeah. I haven't heard any of their specific situations, but I have heard that they were in the Holocaust.
And from what you know about your grandmother's story, is there a message that you would like to give to your grandmother?
A message to give to my grandmother? I don't know, I'm impressed. I mean, it's hard for me to be put in that position, so I can't really, I could say I understand, but I really don't at all. I have absolutely no idea what it was like. I've never been in any situation or circumstance even remotely close to that, so I couldn't even begin to sympathize in any way. But I think it's pretty incredible. I think when I watch, if I watch a movie, Schindler's List, for example, or any other film about the Holocaust, and I actually know somebody that was involved in that, then it's kind of awe-inspiring. But I mean, that's the extent to where I can go right now.
Okay, tell us something about your grandmother that's very special to you.
I think she's incredibly determined and extremely caring for her grandmother. I don't know very many people that have a grandmother that cares about their grandchildren as much as she cares about us. So I think it's pretty amazing, because all of my friends, their grandparents are either gone, or if they're around, it's just grandparents are kind of there as family the same way maybe my cousins might be. They're just only by blood. So that's pretty much what it is, what it comes down to.
So your grandmother's been very involved in your lives, I guess.
Always. I mean, I've never lived more than, right now I live the farthest at USC, 15 miles away, so she's always been there every day for me, except for the last year or two.
Well, just from meeting your grandmother, from interviewing her before today, the preliminary, and today, and having spent a few hours with her, I too think she's pretty amazing, and I think you're very lucky
Well, thank you.
to have your grandmother who went through what she went through, and to be here to share it, and to have witnessed your bar mitzvah, your brother's bar mitzvah. I think she's terrific, and I want to thank you for coming today for your grandmother and being here.
Well, thank you guys. I think this is really important. I'm glad that somebody finally is doing something, because I never see enough of hearing that from actual survivors. So, yeah.
At the bar mitzvah, he said, "Thank you for my parents, and for my tati and babi. They are my second parents." Everybody
Always.
was crying over there in the temple.
That's very special. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I mean, it's hard to come up with anything that I could really put into words. They're just, I always consider them my other parents, as she said there, so it's just second nature to me. And I guess if I look back at what all of my friends have in terms of grandparents, it's just, I guess it really is incredible, just because they don't really have grandparents in the way that I think of grandparents as they're supposed to be. So I mean, it's nice to have somebody else there always whenever I need someone to go to, if I don't want to go to my parents, for example. Or another house I can always come to stay the night, or to come for a meal, or just to talk. It's always nice to have another set of parents. So
You're
that's
very
about it.
lucky. Judith, you want to add something before we finish?
I don't know. I always say the door is always open for him, by us. And we love him dearly. And he knows about it.
Thank you.
From left, that little girl, it's my cousin, and my mother, and the little girl also. Those three children from the right are guests in Auschwitz with my mother together.
Would you tell us the names of the
Yeah.
children in the picture?
This is me. The age was 6, the boys, Zwiedov, and the girl from left was Chaye, Baile, and Hani, and my mother. They all were guests in Auschwitz.
And where was this picture taken?
This was taken in Munkach in 1944, before all the trouble started.
Thank you.
On the right, it's me. And in the middle is my sister, Henchi, who was guest in Auschwitz after staying there 6 weeks. They took her out, Mengele, and they gassed her. And from the right, it's my older sister, who has stayed alive, and she was like a mother to us.
What was her name?
Rivke. She died. She was 75 when she died.
And where was this picture taken, Judith?
This picture also in our garden, in the backyard in Munkach,
In what year?
1944. This is Judith with her brother William. This was made in our garden in Munkach in 1943. Okay. This is me, Judith, as a technician in a drugstore in Czechoslovakia. This was made in 1948. This was at the Bar Mitzvah, Gabriel's Bar Mitzvah, my brother William, Judith, and Scheindl. This was, when was the bar mitzvah? In 1997.
And where was it taken? What
In,
city?
in Studio City, in the garden. This is my son, Zvidov.
What was his name, Judith?
Eddie Zvidov, who died in 1989. In 1989, was very sick. I miss him. This is my husband, Frank. We are together for 50 years. And my loving daughter, I love her very much. And Gabrielle. Gabrielle is also my lover. I love him very much.
What's your daughter's name, Judith?
Margaret, Peggy.
And where was this picture taken?
This picture is taken, I think so, in Studio City in their house.
About what year, do you know?
Just recently.
Okay.
But